Bushwhacks were some of the worst days I've ever had in the mountains, or life, really.
Whereas Panther Mountain is totally opposite. It's a mountain on top of a crater.
I think the weather challenges on this incident were particularly difficult.
It was really the development of New York State. Catskills were responsible.
Now you're listening to Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast.
All right, hold on. I gotta do the TAD. Good Lord.
Yeah, I gotta change my audio settings.
Same here.
So all right.
All right, hold on. Would you put it to low or medium?
No, mine's got a special setting for beer opening.
All right, crack yours. All right, crack mine.
That's good. I heard it.
All right.
I can actually hear the fizzle on yours. Is that a Hudson North? You still working on that tractor trailer load of hard ciders they sent you?
It is actually. It's a Hudson North, but it's a blueberry lemonade. I got this recently from wherever I did. I think it was local, and I just shot it. I know it sounds weird, but I shot it all over the screen. Yikes!
Can you smell that?
No, but you still have it on your auto setting, or not auto setting. So
all right, yeah, I got this this really aromatic
you go.
Amber ale. It is bitchin' good.
Good. We'll talk about it later. So,
all right.
How about the good old rain and snow that we've had for 30 straight weekends? Did you know that?
I saw that stat like a week or two ago, and I lived through it on Sunday. So not that I necessarily got rained on, although I did feel a few drops coming down from overhead. But I am on the third wash of the clothes I wore on Sunday.
Third wash? Yeah,
because they just smelt like so much like a swamp. Okay. I still haven't gotten to my shoes yet. I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with them. An incinerator comes to mind, but I'll come up with like some way of power washing them because it was 18.8 miles of wetness.
Let it go. That's through hiker status of smell.
Yeah, but I'm not a through hiker. I feel like I'm cheating then.
Not at all. Not at all. I mean, I don't know how to say I'm not a through hiker as well, but I kind of like the smell of being that.
Oh, that's gross. Does your wife know that?
She does.
Instead of buying her perfume, do you just go like down to the local bog and bring a sponge and, get some squeeze out of the bog?
No, that's a little far-fetched.
You said you like that smell, man. It's rank.
Well, no, so Jessica, we of course we go every 2 years. We go down to the Appalachian Trail to support the through hikers through the Appalachian Trail. People who do trail magic, and Jessica, I wouldn't say she's different, but she loves the smell of the through hikers. She thinks
so. She's drawn to the through hikers.
Yeah, she has that. She basically says they're doing their journey, they're doing their life life journey and stuff, and she loves it. And they're great people. I gotta admit, they're positive people. So I agree.
Yeah. Well, bathing and showering is an invention of modern humanity.
Yes. So, but once again, I screwed up again. The intro. Welcome to episode 175 of Inside the Line, the Catskill Mountains podcast. Tonight we are talking about Maraleen Manos-Jones, about monarch butterflies, about pollinators, about migration of monarch butterflies, about the population of monarch butterflies in general, pollinators in the Catskills. This is going to be a fantastic episode. So about a lot of passion stuff. Maraleen has a lot of passion about this certain topic.
Sit back and enjoy tonight's interview.
Indeed.
It's going to be a classic.
And we'll see if we have some precipitation this weekend. I'm pretty sure we do. So this will make it 31. I don't know. We'll talk about that later. So once again, 30 straight weekends, going back to November 17th, I think was when I saw. So that was when it was snow. rain, sleet, whatever it was, and then we're coming into full-on rain. Tad experienced it this weekend. I didn't experience it on Sunday, but I know Saturday everybody in the Catskills got kind of rain on. We had some major floods up in the northern Catskills. We had a little bit of flooding down in the middle of the Catskills, but it's just been I mean, that's good. From what we had last year, we had just dry droughts going crazy, freaking starting up some fires, some wildfires that we had 5,000 acres down in the southern part of Ulster County. We had a bunch of fires going on in the Sundown Wild Forest area. It's just a, can I say a clusterfuck of weather?
I really wouldn't use that term. It doesn't make you sound like you actually know or care about what you're talking about, but it's been variable with an emphasis on the wet side since, going back to November, like you said.
And I wouldn't say I don't mind it. I've gotten used to it. The snow was good. We got a lot of good snow, and that was good. That felt good. The rain, it's getting a little old, but once again, this kind of goes with our podcast tonight, with fueling the pollinators, fueling the flowers and stuff like that, growing and stuff. So it all interludes. It's just really weird.
Yeah, well, as I'll tell you when we go over my hike, it's all about, looking at the forecast and being prepared to hike in the forecasted conditions. And
yeah,
you should be okay, which is apparently not like the father and daughter team from Ulster Park, New York, which is just outside of Kingston. I don't know if you want to segue to that.
Yeah, an unfortunate incident on Katahdin. Of course, the end of the Appalachian Trail. We have one of the tallest mountains on the East Coast. It's not the deadliest. Of course, the rangers and the state of Maine do really well on kind of like giving people the permits and stuff to go up Mount Katahdin. But this father-daughter duo went up Katahdin, and unfortunately they were missing. They had their family call in saying that they haven't had information about them in hours. They were missing, sorry. The bodies of the father and daughter from Ulster County, who were reported missing for 4 days after attempting the summit, were found, officials said, on June 5th. And search crews discovered 28-year-old Esther Keterling's body in a wooded area between two trails Wednesday afternoon on July 5th or June 5th, and then officials with the Maine Department of Inland discovered that they have been searching for Tim Kitterling, their father, 58, in the same area the previous day and found him. They both lived in Ulster County, or Ulster Park in Riften, and they were both experienced hikers on the 5,269-foot mountain in Maine. Once again, if you don't know Katahdin, they have what they call the knife's edge. Very sophisticated climbing area that is basically 3 miles of total exposure from one end to the other. It has just nasty weather, some of the most nasty weather. We know that Mount Washington to the west has some crazy weather, but Katahdin is seen as a little bit crazier, even because it doesn't have the weather stations up top, so it's not monitored as often at Mount Washington. It's not climbed as often as Mount Washington because they have more of a stricter kind of policy to let people go in. They have more of a once again, like limited amount of people going through day per day. So it says that more than 60 people have died in Katahdin since 1933, which compared to Catskill Falls are rookie numbers. And began tracking deaths. They're more common on the Knife's Edge, where once again you're exposed to scrambling with big, huge mountain boulders with slippery rock and stuff. They definitely need a permit to do this. Once again, this is the ending part of the Appalachian Trail, so I'm not familiar with they need to obtain a permit once they get into the area. And unfortunate event that happened that, was going all around the media, social media. If anyone has been in Katahdin the past couple of days, they're looking for these two. A lot of people, they found the father early on in the stages, and they were hoping Esther, the daughter, was alive, and she was just a little bit lost. But unfortunately, they found her on the side of a trail, passed away. So once again, I've heard recently that this was due to exposure, because once again, my friend Darren White, he listens to the show, he follows the show. He told me that he did Katahdin and he experienced a 40-degree temperature change from the base to the summit. And this was in July. So you can only imagine, once again, June is way earlier than July, and we are experiencing spring down here in the Catskills, but up in Katahdin, you could have an inch or two of snow and temperatures in the teens and stuff like that. You're experiencing 40 degrees below. Oh, that's fine. I'll just have a layer on. Once you get up top, your experiences massive amounts of wind, some rain, and then sleet, and then snow, and you get into a sticky situation if you fall. And what are you going to do? So, once again, an unfortunate incident that happened in Katahdin, a big talk around social media, just around media in general, that they were found in, unfortunate time that we must kind of just say that if you're doing extreme stuff, you need to be prepared in all sorts of manners, like not just like, hey, I'll pack an extra layer, where you're up on Katahdin, you might need that special cover, emergency bivvy or something like that to keep yourself alive for emergency response crews to come reach you, especially with Katahdin, where these rangers are excellent in what they do. They will do anything and anything to keep you alive. And an incident. I'm rambling on. It's just,
yeah. I mean, you're.
I'm sorry.
You are. So here, I'm going to throw you a lifeline and bail you out of that situation. So it's what a good wingman does.
Co-host.
Yeah. So it seems like they didn't have an in-reach device or similar messenger to reach out and let people know that they ran into trouble, they needed help. Typically, when somebody runs into an exposure situation, they're alive and they're capable of communicating, at least for a certain period of time when they go into it. And they both succumb to apparently the effects of exposure. I understand that they were going up the a bowl trail, not Knife's Edge, coming up from the south, heading north.
So they went up Knife's Edge and then they went down Table Trail. I think that's what it's called.
Okay.
So you're going, I think, from point A to point B instead of point A to the top of the mountain back to point A.
Yeah. So it's interesting that what I heard is she was found 1,000 vertical feet downslope from her father.
Wow.
And yeah, and it from what you just said, it makes me infer that they both summited and she got ahead of him one way or the other, whether he was already suffering problems, whether he was getting tired, but for some reason he falls behind, she goes ahead, or maybe he, was already becoming hypothermic and she left to try to go get help and left him behind. I don't think that would have worked. Or did she just give up on him and forge ahead, knowing that, he was in a bad state and nothing could be done for him? I mean, seems like there's a whole number of different scenarios that could have unfolded, and it's really just, tragic and unfortunate. I do a lot of hiking with my one daughter. We recently did some hiking, and I couldn't imagine, being in that situation. So we feel for the family and what they're going through. But I think it doubles back to, if you're going to hike something like that, you really need to be prepared for the unexpected.
Correct. Yeah. And it says, like you said, one of them was found 1,000 feet below the other. So who knows what was going through their minds at the time. Was it hypothermia and she was trying to escape down just to below tree line?
Mhm.
And like you said, we need to be prepared for, especially in, June, with what anything the mountain has to bring, because,
Yeah,
it could be spring below and still kind of winter somewhat conditions up top, even in the Catskills.
yeah. Well, the wind definitely changes what you feel the temperature to be with the wind chill. And one of the things that I just recently had go through my mind as I was putting away finally my winter gear is I hiked another winter season in the Catskills without ever once pulling anything out of that extra gear bag I keep inside of my backpack that has the puffy insulated pants that I can zip on, my puffy jacket I can zip on, a super warm hat, like these big, beefy, almost like boxer mitten gloves that I can put on, like all this stuff that I can throw on to keep warm in the winter in the event that I get stranded out there and have to sit for a while. I have this bag full of that stuff. Never, ever, ever once have I used it in 7 or 8 years of Catskill winter hiking. So does that mean this coming winter, I shouldn't bring that bag of stuff with me?
I would say no.
Yeah. I mean, it's like having the spare tire in your car. You can have a spare tire in your car for 5 or 10 years and never, ever use it.
Correct.
And then there's that one time you need the spare. Like if you ask me when we go over my Death Valley excursion and the Mercedes G-Wagon that we saw stranded on the side of the road with the flat tire, apparently that's what happened to them. So having, emergency gear and equipment and knowing how to use it and actually deploying it in a timely manner is a good thing. One of the things that, I'm aware of from my sailboat racing days is sometimes when you go to try to put on your, warmer gear, your hard shells and stuff like that, if you're not prepared to do it in windy conditions, it's going to hurt. You're going to get cold just trying to put that stuff on because you don't know how to get a jacket on when, it's just like blowing and flailing in the wind, or you have to take your gloves off to do this or do that. And so your hands get cold. So it's good to prepare these things and be ready for these situations that, you hope that you're never in. So again, it's sad to hear what happened to this family on Katahdin.
Yeah. And, once again, the emergency situations, maybe emergency beacon could have helped out the situation, but you never know. Like if you have those extreme situations that you kind of know of, and, if you have that emergency like bivy, that could save your life.
Sure.
It could give you another 24 to 36 hours for them to come find you. And it's happened in the past, and we've seen it in the past on Mount Washington, where we've heard stories of just someone being, not even 20 feet off trail with an emergency bivy. And, 24 hours later, skies clears up and they're found. Like it's remarkable that could happen, that just a small, simple, compact thing the size of, a potato could save your life.
Yeah. Well, there was those 2 women that were hiking Mount Washington this winter. I don't know if you remember, it was like wet snow conditions. And I forget how many hours it took the rescuers to get to them. But one of the comments or remarks made in the news reports was how well prepared they were to hunker down and wait for a rescue.
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah,
carry whether it's a couple potato-sized bivvies you carry in your pack or more, you never know when you need it, but you'll sure be thankful you have it if you ever do need it.
Correct. And we're kind of, it's funny how we're going kind of like with this outside of the winter conditions and the spring conditions. We're moving more towards the summer, but just to talk about this once again, like, I carry shit that I would never need in the winter, in the summer, like you said, emergency bivy, maybe an extra sweater when it's like the low is going to be 65. You just never know. And it trains you for maybe something you're going to do later on.
Yeah. Well, I'll say that June 1st, I was up on Friday in Balsam Cap, and I had a pair of gloves with me. I didn't put them on, but there was that stretch between Friday and Balsam Cap where there was a significant amount of wind blowing through there. And I thought to myself, gee, for comfort, maybe I ought to throw those gloves on. But otherwise, I don't think I've ever hiked with gloves on June 1st.
Right.
In the Catskills. Right. But I knew that day from, the reported conditions to expect cold and windy stuff. So I had a few extra things for the sake of comfort and safety with me. I didn't need them. Mm-hmm. And I did see one fellow in a short sleeve shirt and shorts out there that day, this guy named Robert. And I was kind of like amazed but he was also a fast hiker. That's the other thing I noticed.
There you go. Yeah. Yep. They always do that.
Yeah, he had a lot of exposed skin, and he was just kind of like hopping around like a jackrabbit.
Yeah, he's probably like this 0.02 ounces that I would wear with my extra pant legs would probably track me down at least 8 seconds, and that's a little bit too much. Speaking of fast hikers, John Kelly, this guy is apparently going after the fastest known time of the Appalachian Trail. As Tara Dower set that last year in September. So this guy is going at it. And I remember seeing a recent post that he was 875 miles in. I mean, this was a recent post, so there hasn't been much. I've looked 835 miles in on week 2. So
it's doing like 400 a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were you going to say that's not bad?
Well, I'm going to say that sounds like John is having a lot of fun. He's probably doing a lot of journaling and diarying, probably has one of those, wooden flutes with him that he hangs out under a tree playing, maybe making some 4 or 5 course meals at night, just really enjoying his stroll along the AT.
Yeah, so 835 miles. This was I forgot. I didn't see when this post. 4 states, 2 poles broken, and $16,000 raised for charity. So Trail Magic, more than you have ever imagined. So I can only imagine this guy kind of flying through, and you're saying hi, and he's going by, and you're like, "Who the hell was that? He didn't even say hi to me." And then you realize that this guy's trying to set the fastest known time. Yeah,
I can't put my head into that space and say I would do something like that. I don't get it.
Yeah, I did. My hike wasn't that bad, but this weekend, but still pushing my knees to that capacity is especially, and he didn't say how old he was.
Day after day, right? He just hiked one day. This guy's doing, 7 days a week.
I get 5 hours of sleep and I am miserable.
Yeah.
And then this guy probably gets like an hour, just like we talk about chicken fat and Kim Levinsky and stuff. They're getting not even an hour of sleep, and they're like, "Let's go."
Yeah, I did my just shy of 19 miles on Sunday, and because I got a late start, I had to cover a lot of territory fast, and I just didn't like the fact that I didn't have time to head off and do a side trip here or a side trip there when I saw something interesting like an old quarry site that I wanted to spend a little more time exploring. It was like, no, I need to play beat the clock today and, finish this hike by 6 o'clock. So,
right. Yeah. So talk about that later. I'm excited. So once again, my friend Todd Bold, listener of the show, showed me this, and I thought it was very interesting. Search expands for former Army soldier accusing of killing his 3 young daughters in Washington state. I hate to bring up negative stuff, but apparently authorities have closed a wide swath of popular campgrounds and backpacking areas along the Pacific Crest Trails of Washington as they search for a former Army soldier wanted in the deaths of his 3 young daughters. Ted, I hate to bring this up. I know you have daughters, but Caleb Decker, 32, 9-year-old Patlin, 8-year-old Evelyn, and 5-year-old Olivia were found dead at remote campsites out of Leavenworth in Washington. The girl's mother reported them missing the night of May 30th, when he returned to bring back them home about 100 miles east of Seattle. They issued Friday night. The governor issued that Friday night. He was ordering a state and National Guard to help with the search. Brutal murder of these young children has definitely devastated everyone in not just the state, but the whole North America. And it's just amazing that this could happen. He was an infantry in the Army from 2013 to 2021, deployed for Afghanistan for 4 months in 2014, an Army spokesperson from 2014 to 2016. Who knows why this has happened? Why am I bringing this up? Because it's on the Pacific Crest Trail, it's hiking, and it's an interesting story that maybe could develop to see what is going to come out of this and why, do we want him to be caught? Yes, because I would like to know why, especially when you're out taking your kids camping. But just a tragedy that happened once again over in Washington. So sorry to bring that up, Ted.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
It's awful. I mean, it's really just unspeakable that a parent can do that to their children, although it does happen too often. I mean, happening once is too much, but child abuse, it's a pretty common thing. And it's, there's not much you can say other than it's just awful. And whether they catch this guy or not, it doesn't undo, these children had their lives ahead of them. They didn't ask for this. They didn't ask for this guy to be their father. So it's just horrible. You hope that they didn't suffer much, if at all.
Yeah. And who knows what was going through his mind. He might have had some mental problems.
I kind of, when I saw this story here, I did a little look into it, and it does seem like there's some mental health issues at play, which is not surprising. And he and the mother of the children were going through a divorce, and it appears that there were some custody and visitation issues. And, hopefully somebody in the legal system didn't drop the ball, and that's why he had custody when he did. Because sometimes that does happen, where there's all sorts of indicators and a person shouldn't have custody or visitation of their children, but they get it, and then bad things happen. But like I said, what happened, and it's just really, sad. Feel for those 3 daughters.
Yeah. And I don't know if there's any listeners on the Pacific Crest Trail at this time for us. I don't know, that New York Times got us some good exposure. So once again, that guy who did that person that did that shout out, please get a hold of us. I'd like to thank you a lot. Actually, it's a pretty good amount of exposure. But once again, if you're hiking along there, be cautious. Who knows if he's still alive? Who knows what he's going to do? Once again, the mental instabilities that he might have might be out of your control or stuff like that. So, God damn, the world we live in. What the fuck?
Yeah, a lot of craziness out there. We'll hear later on tonight.
With our hiking?
Well, no, about butterflies, but you're only here one time, and you ought to make the best of it without interfering with other people's happiness and well-being. You ought to promote their happiness and well-being as opposed to pissing on their existence, which isn't cool.
Wow. Thoughtful words. Love it. That's the way to say it. We should make that a new intro or something like that. I like it. So once again, 3500 Club's 59th annual dinner is coming. The meeting is coming. July 26th. My birthday, actually, Ashokan Center, 477 Beaverkill Road in Olive Bridge, New York, is happening. $55 tickets are available. You can purchase them online. Unfortunately, Tad, I will not be there.
No, well, then maybe I'll go. Maybe I'll go as the representative of the show. I'll bring a microphone and a Walkman tape recorder and do live interviews.
I encourage it. I'm going to be doing something extraordinary for my birthday that I would never think that I would do ever in my life.
The fastest known time on the AT.
On Claudel's Hill. Or Balsam Lake Mountain. That's what I said. I did the fastest known time to the privy so I could do my business.
That's great. That's all the details we need. Let's move on then.
No, I'm going to actually be doing a crazy thing up in upstate New York. It's called Camping with the Wolves. There's a wolf sanctuary up like 40 minutes from where I live, and we're going to be camping right outside the sanctuary.
Did your wife sign you up for this?
I signed myself up and my wife. She's going to be with me.
But you got the special inside the fence stay over. She's on the other side of the fence. Is that how that works?
She paid extra to get that.
My husband, he'll sleep over there with the one with the big teeth. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm so excited to do that. Like it's going to be super cool. They have like a breakfast, a dinner, a talk about the wolves, how they migrate and stuff like that. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Probably one of the best birthday presents I've ever gotten.
Yeah. Well, maybe they'll let you bring one home.
Yeah. So once again, 3500 Club, 59th annual dinner, July 26th. Check them out online. You can get a ticket. Go have fun. I truly encourage going to this because it's fun to talk about everybody's experience. There are all different types of people. People are getting their 3500 Club certificate. David White and Carol White are there, and they are truly inspirational people. Jim Boughton is there. Just inspirational people that, once again, Lords is going to be there. These people give the influence that gave me my passion for doing this as well. So thank you guys. Once again, show up, have fun, drink some brews. Hopefully there'll be some Hudson North Cider. I know there'll be something there. Forgot who they had last year. So
probably Westkill. They have a relationship with Westkill.
They might have.
Yeah.
I don't remember. I remember having a hard cider and it was really good. So shooting the shit. That's good. That's good stuff. So thank you to the monthly supporters, Jeff Jotz, Vicky Ferreira, Mikey S., John Comiskey, Summit Seekers, Desert City Radio, Betsy A., Denise W., Tom H., Vanessa, Jim, and Eric. Thank you guys so much for supporting the show once again. It does not just go to the show, it goes back into the Catskills. And also thank you to our amazing sponsors like Outdoor Chronicles Photography. So capture your love story against breathtaking backdrops with Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Molly specializes in adventure couple photography, and she'll immortalize your moments amidst the stunning landscapes of the Catskills, Adirondacks, and White Mountains. She'll craft timeless images that reflect unique bond in nature's grandeur. Embark on an unforgettable photographic journey with Outdoor Chronicles Photography. Don't hesitate to get a hold of Molly on all platforms. Also, discover the wilderness with Trailbound Project. Our expert-led hiking and backpacking education programs offered unparalleled outdoor experiences. Whether you're a beginner or seasoned adventurer, join us to learn essential skills, explore stunning trails, and connect with nature. Start your journey today with Trailbound Project and unlock wonders of the great outdoors. They do anything from wilderness first aid to bushwhacking programs. Check them out. Awesome organization. So, who's outdoors? Man, this is getting better and better each week. I love it. So mention the podcast of one of your hikes through social media, and we'll chat about it on the show. Tag us by typing at ITL Catskill MTN podcast on your post. So J.K.A. Plow, he told me how to say his name, but I really didn't get it. So he was at Natty Bumppo's cave in Cooperstown. So Natty Bumppo is an old folklore time in Cooperstown. So there was a cave down there over on the eastern side of Cooperstown that you can explore. Nice short trail. Really cool with the the Eastern folklore of the Indians and stuff like that. So he was over there, over in my area. Apparently he lives near me. So cool. So Beyond Blazes, aka Joanne, did a Cornell bushwhack up a Woodland Creek. She said she saw a lot of waterfalls and then summited Cornell and then went over to Wittenberg and then back down. So Ted, you have been up this route probably many, many times. So what do you got to say about that?
Yeah, I've hiked it before. It's an interesting hike. Apparently they hit it with perfect water flow and got to see many falls and continue on to the Burroughs Range. The causeway up there looked like it was a nice hike for them. And she was accompanied by Danny, Mighty Mischievous, is her hiking partner for the day. So
I didn't know that she was occupied by Danny.
Yeah. So, well, I get the inside info. My people really dig deep on the storyline here and, try to make me shine as hard as it is. So they do a lot of hiking together, and they seem to be a good team, and they had a great hike. It is a great hike, but only for the experienced backcountry bushwhacker. This is not your bushwhack to Rusk Mountain. Yeah. It's not like going to Southwest Hunter, honey.
No frickin' way.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said. So awesome. Once again, I didn't know Danny joined them. So Danny will be at the episode this Saturday. God, I forgot. Why the hell do I not mention that the episode is tomorrow?
I don't know. I mean, it's
God.
You need better show notes. But yeah, I will say about this hike, the one thing is the initial part of it where you go up the Woodland Creek and then Cornell Creek, it's fairly straightforward because you are going up a water course. And then eventually that water course comes to an end and you have to start making some decisions in terms of going left, going right. And it gets pretty thick and ambiguous up there. So that's where it's good that you have some backcountry tenacity and you're able to persevere through that. So kudos to them. But again, it's not for the inexperienced to go up there.
Correct. So awesome. Thank you for tagging us in the show. Also, Pink Pody, Tracy, 818, was supposed to do a big group plan for the Catskills today, but unfortunately storms have changed their mind. Did a few miles of the Appalachian Trail, Route 55 to Depot Hill, and then back. Once again, the bugs were brutal. I will agree with that I had fantastic times of good connection and relationship with the bugs on Balsam Lake. She also almost hit a black bear on the road, which I kind of did on the trail, so talk about that later. So thank you, Tracy, for tagging us. And I guess she's going to be at the show as well on Saturday. I guess she's going to be at the show tomorrow, and she said she wanted to do a group hike down to the rail trail down to the Catskill Falls, which she never would do because, unfortunately, she doesn't want to deal with the crowds, but she's willing to suffer. So, good for her.
As long as you get your parking spot ahead of time, you'll be okay.
Yeah, there's going to be at least 8K. They thought Mountain Jam was big. This is going to be bigger. I can't help but laugh.
I'm borrowing the helicopter from the Wyndham Club.
God, what was it? Blaze? Was it Blaze? Something like that.
Yeah, I don't know who it was, but I'm getting a copter ride in. So.
I'm gonna ask somebody from New York City to snag me up and up.
Why don't you get some of the Rangers to just drop you in on a line?
Right, like an intro, an awesome intro, and they could get some training.
Yeah, you can play the music the whole way down. You can have a guitar, an air guitar, and play that intro music as you get lowered into the venue.
Most of the people would be like, "God, thank God that Roaders are doing this intro music because I hate it."
Yeah.
So, all right, so Danny, Mighty Mischievous was somewhere. The way he posted it had me kind of like guessing, but now that Tad has spilled out that information, so did you recognize the waterfall or something?
Well, I knew the two of them were hiking together, and I knew where Joanne was hiking.
Okay.
Because she said so. And I think Danny also reached out to me for some intel on that hike, which I didn't mind giving to them because, again, I respect their, hiking abilities. So, and then I think Danny and Joanne were out again this weekend, but apparently they didn't tag us, so shame on them.
Yes, they did the 6, right?
I think the 4 or the 6 they did.
The 4.
Yeah, something over in the Lone Rocky Friday Balsam Cap area, but it really doesn't count. I mean, even though they signed into the canister, it doesn't count unless they tag us. It's a new rule.
Correct.
Yeah. If you don't tag us, it doesn't count towards anything.
Yeah, so we'll have to coordinate. Once again, you don't tag us, it won't coordinate with 3500 Club. You won't get anything.
Yeah, it's like if a tree falls in the woods and nobody's around to hear it, does it really make a sound? If you go on a hike and you don't tag us, did you really go on a hike?
I love it. Oh, man. I'm writing that down. So, once again, Todd Bold was out exploring waterfalls in the Hudson Valley. He's had surgery, so hopefully he got through that surgery and everything's he's recovering fine. So hopefully you'll be at the show on tomorrow, and I have some stuff for him. So, did you recognize any of the waterfalls that he was exploring? Did you see that?
No, I didn't. I think I saw his posting though, but I didn't recognize those waterfalls. I did kind of make a commitment over the weekend to do a little more Hudson Valley hiking this summer because I'm winding down on one of my Catskill projects. So
Nice.
I should really go and explore other areas. But I'll tell you this, there's kind of a draw to go back to hiking stuff that's over 3,000 feet. So
There is.
I'll end up in the Catskills again soon enough.
Correct. So once again, thank you everybody to tag in the show. Really appreciate it. Once again, your time in the Catskills is essential. So thank you. Once again, buy us a hard cider to support the show. If you think we're doing a good job and you want to support the show, buy us a coffee /hard cider and buymeacoffee.com. Rate the show 5 stars only. Once again, apparently somebody didn't like the intro, so they rated us 1 star, which is absolutely atrocious. So rate us 5 stars to kind of throw out that 1 star that was about the intro that you could skip. So, Ted, what are you having tonight, buddy?
Oh, all right. So I picked up a 4-pack of rare Voss Amber Ale, which apparently is brewed in Cooperstown, New York.
Whoa.
Yeah, right. Your neck of the woods. And the can claims that it's a vibrant spin on Belgium's storied amber ales. Named Sly Fox in Flemish, this ale captures the essence of a famed Brussels craft, renowned for its lively cycling events and pigeon races. Dive into this smooth, easy drinking Belgian ale where rich malts dance with subtle hops, offering a balanced and memorable sip every time. So yeah, I mean it's brewed with orange peel. Where does it say that? Orange peel and coriander.
Wow. I've never heard of that. I'm looking into that. And that's not a part of like Omega or something like that?
Yeah, it is.
It is. Okay. I was going to say, because there's not many like places, breweries up here. So Omega. Okay. Yeah.
So it's not a beer that you're going to sit down and drink all 4 in the same sitting. Yeah. Because the taste is too unique and what does that say again? The dive into the smooth, easy drinking character where the rich malts dance with the subtle hops. Well, you can't do that dance for more than 1 or 2 cans. That's my take.
So you're going to have to come up here to Cooperstown to enjoy that, and we can do some disc golf up there.
Oh, I don't know if it's worth going to Cooperstown to drink
Not
more
too
than one of these, but if you want to hook up together and do some rail trail hiking before the show and shotgun some Bud Lights, we'll do that, and then we'll walk into the Hysterical Society all tuned up and make fools of ourselves.
Bud Lights, nice. All right. So I'm having a Hudson North blueberry lemonade. Fantastic. Enjoying summer, kind of summer taste with the high temperatures. Well, I'd say the high humidity. We've had some crazy humidity here. It's been on and off for the past couple days. So enjoying some Hudson North. I love that stuff. So previous hikes. Do you want me to go first? Who wants to go first?
I don't know. You can go. I can go. Recounting my hike might trigger me a little bit. I still have a little PTSD from it, but I can grit my teeth and try to bear through it.
So I wanted views this weekend. So I went up Sunday. I had a little bit, I wouldn't say a little bit late start. I had a pretty significant late start. I started at like 11 p.m. So I was even wondering if I would get a parking spot up at Balsam Lake. I did eventually on the side, and then someone parked behind me 2 feet, like a freaking New York City parking spot.
They did that because you drive a Tesla, and people feel that if somebody's driving a Tesla, we can be a dick, right?
But they had a Kona. They had an EV as well.
But it's not a Tesla.
So it's like
the owner of their company didn't go around and fire innocent people and cut good programs.
Oh, now you got to go there, man.
So
all right.
It's the rare Voss. It's making me do it. The amber ale. The hops are dancing with my mind now.
True.
Okay,
so I got a good parking spot. I got a decent parking spot there. Headed up Balsam Lake. I've only met 4 people on the way up. I passed 2 people with a dog. I basically chatted with them, and then I passed 2 people right at the intersection, and they were like, where are you going? And I'm just like, I don't really feel like doing the easy one today. I want to go down and then go back up. I want to do the diamond. And they're like, the diamond? And I said, yeah, I want to go down the amazing sky, like the side skirt. I call it the side skirt of the Black Bear Brook, and then go back up the thing. And the guy looked at me and he's like, yeah, I'd rather do the easy stuff. And I'm like, well, good for you. So I started kind of jogging down that little section that goes along the side of Balsam Lake. And on my way down, I stepped in a brand new fresh pile of bear shit, bear scat. I could hear it. That's what it sounded like. And I was just like, you gotta be kidding me. So I'm like scraping this off. The trail was absolutely phenomenal, by the way. There's ferns right at that little side, and there was nettles right at the little side. And I was like halfway in between of when I stepped in this bear shit. And then I was just like, whatever, and then I was like, maybe I could bushwhack up from here. I take a look to the right, and there's nettles, and I have shorts on. I'm like, I don't really want to deal with this right now. So go down a couple 100 feet more. I got my head down. I'm jogging because that area is nice and smooth. You can probably go pretty well. And I look up, and all of a sudden, a beautiful male black bear is crossing the trail. Of course, pull out my phone. I start taking pictures, and I start chatting with the bear. I'm like, hey, buddy, how you doing? He looks back at me. We kind of converse. I'm like, what's going on? How you doing? He starts skirting up the mountain. And I just go with it, and he just flies up the mountain. And then right there and then, I'm just like jealous of his speed, just going up the mountain on all fours. And it was a great experience. I have never experienced, he was only about like 200 feet away. So I've never experienced a black bear that close. It's always been a great distance away to where I've like stepped on a rock or something, and they've skirted up the trail, gone. But this guy just kind of looked back at me, and I got some really great pictures. And he just, and then right after that, when I kind of moved a little bit further and I was chatting with him, he just flew up the trail. So I hit the Balsam Lake, kind of like a intersection going up to the top of Balsam Lake from the Beaver Kill area. And then I'm just like, all right, now we can start our good elevation gain. And it was fantastic. The black flies were fucking atrocious. You did not want to stop. That's why I did not stop. And I just kept going up and up the trail. It was just, I didn't put a head net on. I felt like that if I kept going, I wouldn't have to. And just kept flying up the mountain. I tried, my wife gave me some bug spray that was essential oil stuff. It did not work at all. And I just kept flying up, get to the top. I meet up with the steward up there, the fire tower steward, Mike O'Neill of Red Hand Adventure Guides. And he was absolutely phenomenal. I was the stupid one. And I was just like, oh, I got to get something to eat. And I'm sitting there eating my sandwich and I'm swatting away these black flies, everything. And he's like, why don't we go up in the tower and do this? I'm like, absolutely phenomenal idea. So we go up in the tower and there's no black flies. There's absolutely some 20-mile-per-hour winds happening. We chat for over an hour. 2 people came up. And then after that, we didn't see anybody. We just chatted. Had a great time, and then I was on my way down. I flew down the mountain and eventually home by, I don't know, like 4:45. Really late for me, actually. So had a great time up on Balsam Lake Mountain. The skies were absolutely filled with the wildfire smoke coming from Canada, and it blocked a lot of views. This is the second, I've been up to Balsam Lake, I'm guessing, over 15 to 20 times. And this is the second time I've been up in the cabin. And this time I had, Mike was like, showing me the directional finder where you can like search. It has like a little movement that you can have to show you what direction you're looking in to find the peaks. And we couldn't see anything. We couldn't even see the Red Hill Fire Tower. We couldn't even see the Blackheads, barely see Hunter Mountain. It was one of those times of, it was still cool. And I got my views a little bit. I got a good old view of Graham and Double Top. Miss them. But it was a good time. I had a fantastic time. Got a beautiful pictures of black bears, a black bear, and that gain going up from the Beaver Kill right at that intersection up to Balsam Lake. It's pretty decent. It's got a lot of crazy erosion, but it's a fantastic, fun trail that just keeps you going and going. So, Mike, if you're listening, thank you once again for doing your volunteer. You were a fantastic time, and I had a lot of fun chatting with you. So,
all right, so let's talk about the essential oil bug spray.
I'm
going to give you a pro tip.
What's that?
So when in bug season, when I pull up to the trailhead, on the passenger side door of the Jeep, I have like the smorgasbord of bug sprays. Every recipe from essential oils to permethrin, I got it all there. And I'll spray myself, okay? But the only bug spray I take out on the trail with me is the DEET. And why is that?
Is you talking about like the 100 DEET or whatever it's called, like the white bottle?
I'm talking about what's commercially legal. I think it's only 30%. It's not suitable for use on infants. I think you have to be over the age of 60 to use it. Right?
But yes, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, because my thought is when you're out hiking and you need to reapply bug spray because what you have isn't working, you want DEET. Okay. It's like the essential oil obviously isn't going to cut it any longer. Okay. You want something to keep the fuckers away. And it's going to be the DEET. It's not going to be something that you're going to buy at the little We Love Everybody organic shop. You want the flamethrower of bug sprays, and that's the DEET. Okay. So that's what you'll find that I have on the trail. My next question, given what I encountered on Sunday, How wet or dry were the trails?
Surprisingly very dry.
Yeah.
A couple wet spots. Of course, Balsam Lake has those like little puddles.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think they should somehow move some rocks into there because it's causing, those little side trails that are absolutely insane. But going from the Diamond down to the Beaver Kill, going back up to the Balsam Lake was absolutely phenomenal. The spring was flowing. Oh my God, I stuck my head underneath that cold, absolute water. But I know, like, let's get out of my discussion. They were dry trails. What about you? You had a 18-mile excursion. What the hell are you doing? The Appalachian Trail?
Yeah, well, so this goes back to when we had Sarah Bacon on the show. I blame this on her because when she was on the show, I hadn't gone through the list, but I had mentally thought that I had about 30 miles more or less of the All Trails Challenge. And she started mentioning some trail names that I wasn't familiar with. And I'm like, what the fuck is she talking about? And one of them was Trout Pond and the other was Mud Pond.
Yep.
Which, when you look at the map, they really aren't trails. They show up as roads. So when I looked at the map, I'm like, well, these aren't on the list. They're roads. They're not trails. One of even says it's a snowmobile trail. So why would that be on the hiking trails list? Well, sure enough, they're on that. So that and another hike that I did last fall kind of gave me like almost 40 miles that I had overlooked. So at any rate, knowing that I had to set out from Little Spring Brook Trail and go up the Plelnor Hollow Trail to Split Rock, and then go over Campbell Mountain, Brock Mountain. Campbell Mountain and Brock Mountain are lovely mountains, particularly Campbell Mountain on the eastern and northern sides. Looks like it's old farming country. Brock Mountain has an interesting quarry on it with some old quarry equipment. There's some interesting forestry along other sections of the road, etc. But the one thing I knew when I was setting out to do this 18.8 mile hike is I knew from all the rain that we were getting that this was going to be just a real wet slog. So I wore these mesh shoes I have, shoes, they're not boots.
Yeah.
So you don't have a lot of protection from the water, deliberately so, because I knew from the get-go I was going to be hiking in water. What I didn't know is when I left I rode my bike out to the Little Spring Brook trailhead. And after I locked up my bike and I started heading out this trail by somebody's house that's at the end of the road, the trail's going along. I'm making good progress. And then I reached this point where it's really, really, really hard to figure out where the trail goes. And do you know why that is, Stosh? Do you know why you reach a point on the Little Spring Brook Trail where you don't know where the fuck it goes?
Well, there's two things out in the Western Catskills. What I love is ferns. And then what I don't love is nettles.
Yeah, well, it's too early in the year for ferns taller than you, which we'll get later in the year out there.
Taller than you, Jesus.
And earlier, and you do run into them that big out there. That's why I wanted to get this hike done early in the season. And the nettles in the earlier part of the hike were not big enough or mature enough to have teeth.
Okay.
Later on in the hike, where I sent you that photo, yes, those were mature nettles that had been teething, and some of them had reached the biting stage. But as I'm heading out the Little Springbrook Trail at the beginning of the hike, where I'm making really, really good time, and I'm happy because it's somewhat scenic, and I am getting my feet wet, but I'm prepared for that. But I do reach this point where's the trail? Well, the trail goes right through the fucking beaver pond. Okay.
Oh.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's like one of these punky beaver ponds, with like stagnant water and stuff. So obviously you don't go through that, but that was like the telltale of what was to come. When you reach this intersection with the Plelnor Hollow Trail, it's almost like a lake, I mean, you can still see the vegetation, growing above the surface of the water, but it was just flowing water. You didn't know what you were stepping in. You were sinking into. It was kind of like when we were out with Mike Kudish, and you get that suction when you go to lift your foot up, like pulling your shoe off. Yeah. So it's like now every step you take, you don't know how far your foot's going to sink in. And you don't know when you lift your foot if your shoe is going to come with your foot or stay in the ground. But eventually that ended. I went out to Split Rock, but I did have to double back because that little mile and a half out to Split Rock was just a little stub for me. I continued on. The hike was on and off interesting along the trails I hiked that day. What was unusual for a Catskill hike is I did 1, 2, 3 road crossings that day, which is generally uncommon. Yeah. So in retrospect, I thought to myself, gee, if I did this hike later in the year, what a good place to stash water if you need it on these road crossings. The next thing I'll say is I indicated early on that this hike takes you past Mud Pond. You ready?
Yeah.
Ready? And so as you're hiking towards Mud Pond, you're reaching the end of the hike. You're down to you got 5 miles to go. And I even texted my wife. I had texted her earlier in the day, and I told her my ETA with being done with the hike was going to be around 6:00. And I was ahead of schedule by the time I got to Mud Pond. So I sent her an update. And then I go around the corner, and there it was. It was like Mud City. It was like shiny on top. And so you had no idea whether you were going to just go down to like an inch, whether you're going to go down to your ankle, lower part of your shin, maybe mid calf, right? It was that bad. It was that bad.
What is worse, the Catskill snowmobile trail or this?
This mud, if you want to talk about texture and density of mud, okay, we're gonna get into the fine analysis of the organic composition of the muds, because this is at a lower elevation. It's denser mud, so you don't sink as fast as you do in the moat around Catskill High Peak. So you feel like you're going around Mud Pond. You feel like you're sinking to a slow death with each footstep, but you can't lift your feet up. It's like you can't hustle through it because no matter how tight you tie your shoes, it just has enough pull or enough suction that if you go too fast, you feel like you're going to lose a shoe going through there, and God bless you if you find it again. So after I made it around that corner and I got past Mud Pond, you then go down the Mud Pond Trail towards Russell Brook. And it starts off as like, oh, this is pleasant. I'm enjoying this hike again. And then you come into the nettle groves. And these were the mature nettles. These are the ones that were growing teeth. And you start getting bit by them as you're going through, which a little early in the season to have that. But, I felt, look, this is the end of the hike. If this is as bad as it gets, this isn't so bad. But I mentioned that because it got worse. It got worse after this. Yeah. Okay. So as I'm going down and I'm approaching the Russell Brook, I'm going to call it the Russell Brook Road because that's what I've seen it called in other people's reports. And on my map, it shows it as an old railroad bed. And there was actually a factory out there that dyed clothes for the U.S. military during World War II. And apparently they would bring the stuff in and out via train or rail car. So there is an old rail bed that goes through there. And I thought, naively so, that I'd be able to make really, really good time and have easy hiking along this old rail bed, right? Wouldn't you? Well, was I wrong? I had to cross over the Russell Brook. I think I posted a little video of that in my story. And the water was just murky enough that you really couldn't see what you were hiking on or walking over. So it was somewhat slippery. Then I got back on the old rail bed, which was eroded in several spots, which forced you to get back in the water. So although it was a 1.5-mile segment of the hike, it was kind of a real bummer that I was expecting easy street along that 1.5-mile segment, and it was far from it. But I will say the blessing of walking in, across, and up the Russell Brook a few times was really, really good for getting all that fucking mud. No, getting all the fucking mud off my shoes.
Oh, yeah.
So that's it. Eventually, I got to the best view of the day, which with that was my white Jeep sitting in the parking lot waiting for me with a clean change of clothes and an ice cold Diet Coke.
Also, how many people did you encounter?
So actually, I hiked 18.8 miles, and I did, when I was coming down Campbell Mountain, I ran into 2 women hiking with the dog who were surprised to see me, and I was equally surprised to see them.
Yeah.
They wanted to know if it was a loop hike, and I told them that you could make it into a loop hike because there's enough old logging roads and the quarry road up there that if you spend enough time, I'm sure you can loop around, but the Mark Trail is not a loop hike. So needless to say, I finished 18.8 miles, and I am now less than 15 miles away from the All Trails finish.
Fantastic. Then we got to make that event. How many more segments do you have, do you think, to complete it?
So I have another long Western Cat hike, which I'd like to get done before the ferns get taller than me. And as you know, I'm like 14.5 inches. So, I'll need to do that soon. And then I just got a couple weird short stuff in the Eastern Cats. I mean, I could almost this Saturday before the live show, go and knock off a couple of those because altogether it's not even 3 miles.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, but I don't know. I mean, I'll come up with something interesting to do. I know with the one of them that's 1.4. I've planned to do it with the bushwhack to something else. So. Well, I'm in no rush. I mean, there's no clock ticking where I need to get this done by a certain date, other than my thought is if I don't finish that one Western Catskill hike relatively soon, I'm just going to put it off until the fall when it's really pretty out there. So
good call. Sorry, I keep muting and unmuting myself because in the background I have fireworks going on.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, it's the what's it called? The Cooperstown Dreams Park that's nearby. So it's really weird. So I didn't know they would be happening tonight. So
that's small town America.
Indeed. So congratulations, you're winding down. So the one thing I'm going to say is when you finish, we're not doing that arch thing of where they hold their hiking poles up.
Oh, come on, man. What the fuck did I do this thing for?
That's the cheesiest shit I've ever seen in my life.
Really?
I think so. It's so weird.
Nah.
It's like people throwing rice at a wedding. That's just so weird.
I think it's cool.
Okay. All right. So if you want to do that, then we'll freaking do that. God damn it. I would rather open up some ciders and have it spray all over you.
Yeah. No, so I can say that I have done the All Trails solo. Because all of these hikes, particularly those in the Western Cats, which I've done long after I did my first round of the 3,500, I've done all of them solo. A lot of bike and hikes out there, some, bushwhack out and hike back to the car and whatnot. Obviously, I've done everything in the High Peak area, multiple times by myself. So it's kind of a thing where I'm just going to finish it solo is a solo effort to finish it.
All right.
I will not, unlike Al Purdy, I will not set out to do it again. Other than I will say, I've thought about this several times, including this past weekend. What would be cool is a lot of these trails would be great to do with skis on, backcountry ski them when you have enough snow. that would be fun.
Sounds interesting. All right. So awesome. Glad you had a somewhat interesting experience, I would say.
Yeah, well, so I've washed my clothes. I think they're ready for wearing again. And I just have to, like, I don't know, take my shoes to like the car wash and strap them on top of the car or something and go through a few times. They need a good power washing.
I was going to say power wash.
Yeah.
So once again, volunteer 3500 Club, Catskill Trail Crew, Catskill Mountains Club, New York, New Jersey Trail Conference, Visitor Center, Jolly Rovers Trail Crew. Volunteer where you can, when you can. Also, if you want stickers, send me a message or go to Camp Catskill. I went there today to drop them off, but they weren't open. So I'll drop them off on Saturday. So get your stickers there, or you can get them tomorrow at the Mountaintop Historical Society. We're having our live episode. So weather this weekend doesn't matter. You're all going to be at the Mountaintop Historical Society. So
yeah, just bring your umbrellas.
Yeah, so we'll be under things. So once again, Friday looks like to be sunny day, a high of 64, a low of 54 at night. Looks to be pretty good. Saturday looks like a little rain, accumulation to about 0.1 inches, a high of 59, a low of 57. Same thing with Sunday, accumulations to around 0.05 inches with a little bit of rain. So get out there. Once again, prepared for the weather. Let's go over our last set of sponsors, and we'll go on to Maraleen. Sounds freaking fantastic. So discover Camp Catskill in Tannersville, your ultimate hiking store. Find top quality gear, apparel, and accessories for all your outdoor adventures. Our expert staff is to hear and help every hiker from beginners to seasoned pros. We also carry a variety of unique Catskill souvenirs and gifts. Visit us online at campcatskill.co or in the store to gear up for your next journey. Adventure starts at Camp Catskill. Also, embark on a transformative journey with Another Summit. Another Summit is dedicated to serving veterans and first responders with free outdoor activities. Activities like walks in nature, paddling, hiking, and even backpacking. Join our supportive community to rejuvenate in nature's embrace. Experience camaraderie, adventure, and healing at no cost. Take your next step with Another Summit and ascend to new heights of resilience and joy. Apply today at anothersummit.org. So let's welcome the guest of the night.
Let's go.
Tonight, Maraleen Manos-Jones joins us to talk about monarch butterflies, butterfly migration, butterfly declining population, stuff like that. In the Catskills, not just in the Catskills, all over the world, all over the United States. Great to have you, Maraleen. Let's get into talking about butterflies. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing very well. There are actually some caterpillars, monarch caterpillars, I heard rumbling about on milkweed, so they're early, but that's always a good sign.
First question of the night, is the rain helping? Like all the rain that we're getting helping? Because it's the big thing going on right now.
Well, the rain is certainly making everything lush life. Too much rain, usually caterpillars and chrysalids and monarchs and all butterflies find shelter in the rain. Of course, if there are floods and heavy downpours, that could adversely affect ground nesting bees and caterpillars caught in floodwaters. So as far as the plants are concerned, everybody is growing quite well.
Good. Okay, because we just had so much rain. So, all right, let's get on to it. Can you give a little background about yourself? First off, you can go as far as you want when you're a little kid coming up to now. I've read your bio on your website. Your website's fantastic, by the way. It's got a lot of information. So
thank you.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to start with only 52 or 3 years ago. I won't go way back. There are stories from then, but the story from 1972, the summer of 1972, is really what initiated and awakened my passion for monarchs, and I call it a cosmic accident. I lived on Cape Cod, on the tip in Provincetown on the tip of Cape Cod, and I had a gallery, an art gallery. And I was walking in the woods with a girlfriend looking for herbs and berries, and I tripped over a bramble or something. Have you ever fallen in slow motion? I fell quite gracefully just to one knee instead of flat on my face. And a few inches from my face was this beautiful black, yellow, and white striped caterpillar waving its antennas, which are really called firmaments. And I thought it was saying hello. But I found out later it was actually trying to scare me away. But that didn't work because I took the caterpillar and the plant on which it was feeding home with me. Just, it aroused my curiosity. And this is before cell phones. This is before computers. This is when you went to your local library to get information. And I found out this caterpillar was going to be a monarch butterfly. And I was also a modern dancer at the time, as well as an artist. And I thought watching its metamorphosis would be quite inspiring. And I brought home caterpillars. All caterpillars have voracious appetites. Monarch caterpillars eat about 35 milkweed leaves in their short 3-week life. So I, every other day, was out there gathering milkweed, which is the only plant on which monarchs will lay their eggs. There are over 17,000 different kinds of butterflies, and each one has a particular plant on which to lay her eggs that will nourish them and survive. That's how many butterflies can share meadows, because they all have different plants. I know I can go off on tangents. I'll try not to go off on too many.
No. How about you name all those 50 monarch or those butterflies in every species? Let's go right now. We got all the time in the world.
About, I think it might take longer than the podcast can handle.
We'll just fast forward through that segment and pretend that you did it. That was quite impressive. Moving along.
Anyhow, so it began, and bringing home milkweed for my first caterpillar. The caterpillar increases its weight 2,700 times in its short life. The caterpillar, I watched the metamorphosis up close and personally. When my first caterpillar hung upside down, I thought it was imminent that it was going to change into a chrysalis. Only it took 24 hours, and I waited without sleep because I didn't want to miss the moment of change. It was worth the wait. 2 weeks later, this beautiful striped caterpillar, which had turned into a jade green jewel with gold dots. That's its chrysalis, which is quite amazing. Turned silvery transparent. You could see the butterfly folded up on the inside. And I thought, again, it was about to emerge. It took 24 hours to do so. Again, without sleep, it was worth it. And when the butterfly emerged with a shriveled body and shriveled wings and a fat body, in 15 minutes, it pumped the fluid from its body. It was a full-size monarch. However, it was September, Labor Day weekend of 1972. There was a hurricane outside. I was not about to let my butterfly go in a hurricane. So I made a sugary honey water mix for the butterfly, who came readily to my hand, and we hung out for a few days in my hair, on my third eye, on my heart, on my shoulder. Interspecies, nonverbal communication. It was extraordinary. Sun came out a few days later. I let her go. At that point, scientists knew that monarchs flew to Mexico, but nobody knew where in Mexico they went. And I yearned to go with her, but I let her go free. She landed on my head in thank you and then took off. Got back to my little place by the bay, and I heard this strange sound. What is this? I hadn't realized that butterflies lay their eggs on the underneath part of the leaves. So I inadvertently brought home dozens and dozens and scores of little eggs. The egg of a butterfly is about the size of a pinhead. So it's easy to miss if you're not looking closely. And all of a sudden, bringing home, I had about 100 caterpillars and 100 butterflies, and my house was filled with butterflies. And thus began my life's journey.
Life's journey. Would you call it an obsession or no?
A passion.
Passion. There we go.
A passion and a following of my heart, and listening to my instinct and listening to butterfly spirit that basically has guided me through many adventures.
It sounds like a fantastic time, especially, when you're going through a hurricane and you have to hold on to that monarch, and being, not with internet or something like that, you had to know how to take care of that butterfly back in the 70s when, like I said, you might have read a book and been like, oh, wow, this is how it's going to live within 3 or 4 days. So that's absolutely phenomenal. So, I mean, with your beautiful story and stuff like that, of course, the monarch population is on decline. We've known this for years now. With you being watching it over 50 years, like, could you tell that it was happening as you were going along? You're like, wow, this is starting to get noticeable. We're starting to see this. What can you tell us about your experience with the decline of the monarch butterfly?
Absolutely. I am an eyewitness to what has happened to the monarchs over, this half century. I would just say 5 years after I started raising monarchs every summer, I did this deliberately the following summers. Actually, the following year, I started tagging them for Dr. Urquhart of the Insect Migration Association to study their southward migration to see if we could locate where in the mountains of Mexico they migrated to. 77, I went in search of that sacred place. There are many long stories around that, and with the scientists with whom I worked. I'm not going to go there at this point. When I first encountered the monarch butterflies, it was the first day of spring, 1977, after climbing mountains for 2 months. And there were about 50 million monarchs on this particular one of 13 mountains where they overwintered, Cerro Palom. I have returned almost every year since then for many reasons, including to protect them, to create a dance on the mountaintop, which I did, to live among them, to tag them on a grant, to study their northward migration. Every year, the population would fluctuate. Some years, there would be 100 million on the mountaintop. Some years, 30 million, 50 million, 70. It was estimated you do a square yard and you count the butterflies and then you extrapolate from there. In the early days, they covered about 60 acres on Cerro Palom. All right, we're going to fast forward, telescope to 2014. I went to Mexico again to celebrate the 100th birthday of a woman who lives I've known for all this time, who lives just in the foothill of where the monarchs overwinter. Beautiful little pueblo of 500 people celebrating a beautiful life. And of course, I went up to see the butterflies and I was in shock. Up to then, I had been also working with a reforestation program in Mexico to help plant millions of trees in the mountains where the monarchs overwinter, and to help the indigenous people and work with the women. So those are other long stories. Oh, I'm getting back on track. I'm sorry.
No. I just thought, did this all start out in the Catskills, your passion and stuff like that?
No, it started out on Cape Cod. I've been in the Catskills now for 21 years.
Okay.
But it has continued.
Okay.
It
Okay.
has not stopped. This is a dramatic moment. In 2014, when I went up to see the butterflies, instead of 50 million or 100 million, there were 3 million. Instead of covering 60 acres, they covered 1 acre. Instead of hundreds and hundreds and covering hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of trees, they were on a dozen trees.
Wow.
It was startling, shocking, dismaying, all of the above. And upon my return, the very next day, I was in front of my town board because I had worked so arduously in Mexico to help their habitats here. But all the scientists and I realized big problems were happening to the detriment of monarchs and all pollinators in the States. So the day I returned from Mexico in January of, I guess, 2015, I was before my town board asking them to make a resolution to protect pollinators. And how do you protect pollinators? How do you protect the butterflies? Stop using poison and pesticides.
Yep.
Number one. Number two, do not buy plants in big box stores, in all these big corporate places, because all those plants are treated with a great development, a neonicotinoid, it's called. It's a pesticide that's injected into the seed of the plant and manifests in every cell of the plant, in the stem, in the leaves, in the flower, in the pollen. And it's in the nicotine family. And they've tested, and bees, for instance, presented with a flower with the neonicotinoids or not, develop a habit for the nicotine and will go to it to soon meet their death. So half of all the plants in our gardens across this United States are bought in big box stores. And the plants look beautiful. They're a good price. There are no insect bites out of them. But we're taking these beautiful plants home instead of providing for our bees and butterflies and birds. We are accelerating their death.
Guilty. Sorry. I hate to admit it. I'm guilty.
Okay, but now it's about educating and learning. I actually petitioned the big box stores starting back then in 2012 and 2010, petitioning the big box stores. And yes, I got promises, lots of signatures, lots of calls, lots of letters. And got promised, oh yes, by 2018, 2019, we will surely get rid of that. They're still doing it. They're still doing it. So it's about educating people and hopefully just waking people up in the corporate world that they have children and grandchildren too. And if we don't have pollinators, their children and grandchildren will not have a third of the food that we now have. And believe me, when we lose our pollinators, people are going to get real cranky without coffee, chocolate. Just start with that. Much less all the fruit and vegetables. Do you know how cranky humans are going to be? Really?
Tad, you can come in with that one.
Yeah. So, all right. So, Maraleen, let me just back up with one lingering question I have. Why do monarchs, of all the pollinators out there, why do monarchs spend their winter in Mexico? I mean, they don't go to Cancun, they go to the mountains in Mexico. Why is that?
Because of the perfect environment to keep them safe. There are many butterflies, over 250 different butterflies that migrate, including the painted lady. But the monarch migration is the most unique and the largest. Why they choose it. There are reasons that are not actually fully understood or explained by scientists yet. One of the things is they have magnetite in their bodies. And the mountains where they go are old volcanic mountains, actually still active, with a lot of iron. So there's a big magnetic pull that they can hone in on. Their migration starts when the sun is at a 56-degree angle to the horizon at noon, when the days are getting shorter and cooler. And it's, the monarchs say, something's happening. I think I gotta go somewhere. Even though I've never been there before, I have this compulsion. I have to go. And of course, hey, it's kind of cold. Some butterflies overwinter in their chrysalis state right here in the Catskills, like black swallowtails. Some butterflies overwinter as full butterflies, like the mourning cloak, the comma, and the question mark, finding nooks and crannies and coming out in January, February on a warm day. But monarchs, they're out of Dodge. Now, migration is very unique. Traditionally, or for millennia, monarchs would start their migration in mid-September. The hummingbirds leave first at the beginning of September. The monarchs leave in mid-September. And they start out from Canada one by one, and soon are 10, 20, hundreds, thousands. So by the time they gather, and I think for, hey, do you know where you're going? No. Do you know where we're going? Let's go together. Okay. and by the time they all funnel through Texas, there are hundreds of thousands, millions. By the time, and it used to be, but life has changed. It used to be, it would take them a couple of months. They can fly about 35 miles an hour. They do not flap their wings every second. They glide on the thermal winds. That's how they can fly so far. And they all gather, and it used to be that they would arrive on November 1st, Day of the Dead, which is very symbolic. Yeah. They are considered the old souls of Mexico returning to the sacred mountains. And for 3 days and 3 nights, you could not see the sky because it was so filled with monarchs. I've seen it. It's the phenomenon. And anyone who has, and by now, there are millions of people who have visited these sacred mountains. And you cannot help but be in total awe of being on such a sacred place.
Well, you told us you have a special dance you do when you get there, right?
Well, in the early days when I was a young thing, I went to create a dance on the mountaintop that I toured in Mexico and New York and Boston and blah, blah. But that's... So there the monarchs have traditionally arrived on the 1st of November. I was just there this past winter at the end of November. And for the first time in anyone's memory, the monarchs had not yet arrived on Zero Ballon. A month late, actually a month and a half, 2 months late, they came straggling in through December. They were on a few other mountains. They hang out for the winter. So because of climate change, I'm going to bring in here, they linger longer in the north. As I said, they used to begin their long journey south in the middle of September. Now they linger until the end of October, the beginning of November, and there's stories how I took some down that Southwest Airlines helped me help them on their migration, bringing them to Texas, but that's another story for another moment. So they're losing, because they're starting their migration at least a month later, they're losing a month's time in their overwintering habitats in Mexico. It's up at about 10, 12,000 feet, 13,000 feet, and they rest on oyamel fir trees. And the fir trees protect them. It's the perfect climate. It can be cold at night. They can get frost, but they all huddled. They can be 10,000 on any one tree. The tree trunks themselves, the tree trunks are 2 degrees warmer than the ambient air. So the trees keep them warm and they keep each other warm. A big issue, illegal deforestation. And I worked for many years and met with the president of Mexico, with the governor of Mexico, and worked with a forester for 15 years because of the deforestation issues in Mexico.
Now, Maraleen, one question real quick. We're talking about the migration. How far up do the monarchs, do you know latitude, longitude? How far up in degrees and stuff do they migrate from north to south down to the mountains?
Oh, okay. Now, let's say they leave the states at sea level, a lot of them, but here in the Catskills, I'm up at 2,025 feet. So
you're up in the Andes, right?
No, I'm in Shokan, right here in the Catskills.
Okay.
So they can fly up to a mile. They've been sighted flying past the high floors of skyscrapers. So, and how did they get up to the mountains? It's because where they overwinter is 10,000, 11,000, 12,000. And when they first arrive, are they going to go up to the very top to 14,000 in some instances? But when you get to the top, where do you go from there if it gets hotter? Where do you go from there?
Yeah. I was just very curious of where their migration pattern, not like longitude and latitude, but the high north and then low south is where it was. I was just very curious.
So they start, the northern habitat is southern Canada.
Okay.
And their southern habitat is Mexico, but some have been sighted in Panama. There's some that overwinter in Florida. So they did, and the monarchs west of the Rocky Mountains migrate up and down the west coast, California. Much less population, still fabulous, very threatened by habitat loss, pesticide use, climate change, habitat loss. We lose over 2 million acres of pollinator habitat every single year in the United States alone.
Wow.
But the use of pesticides has so exponentially grown because it's such a big money-making billion-dollar business to kill our planet and all who live upon her.
So, Maraleen, before we talk about the factors that are bringing about the extinction of the monarchs, and we're not that far away from the topic of migration, I understand that their migration is multi-generational. Is that true?
Well, good question. And their southward migration, they make it in one generation. The monarch that starts out in Canada will make it all the way down to the mountains of Mexico. In the spring, when I found them on March 21st, the first day of spring, 1977, as I said, there were about 50 million mating on the first day of spring, an amazing, beautiful aerial dance. Now they are, and then they would leave for their northward migration in mid-April. Now they're mating in mid-February. And by mid-March, and the first day, they're already well on their journey north. And timing is everything. For us, for them. Will milkweed be ready? Will flowers, there'll be enough flowers to fuel their journey. All right, so they leave the mountains of Mexico. Hey guys, you've done your job. The females have carry about 400 fertilized eggs, and they start their journey northward. And they're headed back. If a monarch was born here in the Catskills, she's headed back here. Amazing. But she runs into problems, exhaustion, whatever. She will lay her eggs maybe in Texas or Tennessee, and her offspring will continue her northward migration. So it's one generation to reach Mexico and 2 to 3 generations to complete the northward migration. Every once in a while, once I have seen a monarch that I believe flew all the way from Mexico and made it up here. She was so well worn. She laid her eggs on the milkweed and collapsed. But I can't. She wasn't tagged, so I couldn't attest to that. But just my visual assessment. So one generation to go down, 2 to 3 generations to make the northward migration, and they are arriving earlier. They're leaving Mexico a month early, so they're losing a month at the beginning of their overwintering, and they're losing a month at the end of their overwintering, and it's dire. It breaks my heart to see the decimation of all our pollinators and GMO crops in the middle of this country, glyphosate, Roundup, having many of the ingredients of Agent Orange and adding more every year as insects become immune to its poison. GMO crop in the center of this country. We have created a great breadbasket, but also a great dead zone. If you look at pictures of corn and soy and wheat and all the crops, they're miles and miles of cropland with no hedgerows, no flowers, no birds, no butterflies, no bees, no frogs, no snakes, no toads, nothing, because they're so decimated with Roundup and everything, and we're killing the soil. Yeah. Iowa alone has lost 98% of its milkweed.
Wow. So, Maraleen, I know with humans, they call that a grocery desert, where there's a lot of area that separates one grocery store from the next, and it inhibits or impairs people's ability to go out and get decent groceries, fresh produce, and things like that. But while we're on this topic now of what human occupation and use of the planet is doing to bring about the demise or extinction of monarchs, why don't you start off by telling us what a pollinator is, how it is that monarchs are pollinators, and then we can segue into how our use of the planet as a facility to manufacture crops and do other things is bringing about their extinction.
You know, flitting from flower to flower, monarchs pollinate many flowers and trees and bees. So the bee, I love pictures of bees landing on a flower, buzzing around and coming up with covered in pollen. If you look closely at nature, any part of nature, it's extraordinary. And then they'll visit another flower. Tomato plants. Are we going to try to fertilize tomato plants with Q-tips and paintbrushes? I mean, if we want, by going flower to flower, from vegetable to vegetable. Actually, folks, if you want to have beautiful vegetables in your garden, plant flowers among your vegetables. It will attract what pollinators, what bees and butterflies are still here. We've lost about 22% of all butterflies are extinct at this point. And the number's rising. Bees have had a very hard time. You know, they're subject to viruses and disease, and one thing that we can do to help, dandelions, folks, are not our enemies. Dandelions are actually a great source of nectar for the early bees, the early butterflies. They boost the immune system. The ingredients in a dandelion boost our immune system. If you take it out, the roots, and dry them, make a tea, it's anti-cancer. It boosts our immune system. The nectar boosts the immune system of the early eastern tiger swallowtails and the early bees. It keeps them healthy. When you take millions of bees and you take them to pollinate orchards in California for almonds, and those almonds orchards are sprayed with tons of pesticide, don't you think that affects the bees? We are what we eat. It's every living creature is what it ingests. So if we provide more and more poisons for them to ingest, we're doing them in. I don't know if I've answered your question exactly.
Yeah, so I get it. Pollinators are important to growing fruits and vegetables. And I suppose that means, and this is going to bring Stosh back into the conversation, I suppose if we don't have pollinators out there, we won't have apples. And if we don't have apples, we won't have hard cider. Is that fair to say?
Quite fair to say.
Mm-hmm. I would say so.
And then, you know, a third of our fruits and of our food would be gone.
Mm-hmm.
A third. That's a bunch of years ago, Whole Foods partnered with the Xerces Society and took off the shelves all the foods that would be missing if we miss our pollinators. They did it for pollinator week. They did it for a week or two. And it was shocking to most people.
I never knew about that.
I think it needs to be done again because people need to feel and see and understand how these little things are the trees. You know, some things are pollinated by wind or a root system, but pollination for all the wildflowers and the trees, as well as our food, takes place because of the birds, the bees, the bats, the butterflies. All of them play a part in this beautiful tapestry of life. No. And when you start unraveling the threads of the tapestry of life, you know, it's said that the butterflies are one of the canaries in the coal mine. If they go, thus goes so much else.
Interesting. You know, I follow that migration is important for everything, you know, birds, stuff like that. The one question that I have a lot of is, how do they know their migration if they'd never done it before? Is it like temperature? Is it wind? Like, how is this? I know it's basically all theory right now because birds do the same thing. They migrate from like South Africa all the way up to, you know, the tundra of Canada and stuff. Like, it's just, to me, it's a phenomenal journey. Do you know how they do it? Like, I mean,
not all the scientists don't know how. It's a great question. How do they know? As I said earlier, it's temperature change. It's the length of the day. It's the angle of the sun. It's which way the winds blow can really help on the migration. And it's ancient knowledge that's passed down. How do they pass down the knowledge? We learn if we're open to it. We can learn past knowledge from our ancestors if we allow ourselves to learn. So do they learn how on the monarchs' migration? they will stop. As I said, they start out 1 by 100 scores, thousands on the same trees that their ancestors stopped on last year. Do they leave a little scent behind? Do they leave some of their DNA behind? Just as where we go, we leave a little bit of our DNA, scraps of it here and there. Do they sense it that way? Where is this intelligence, this deep intelligence of how to go to a place to which they've never before been and know they must go? It's something that's not fully understood. Some scientists said, well, when the Ice Age came and milkweed, the host plant for the monarchs, couldn't survive, so it migrated south, and then the monarchs followed. But what about all the other birds and butterflies? Some of them did, some of them didn't. Some of them adapted in other ways.
Interesting. Now, was this, I mean, we're talking about monarch butterflies, but, a lot of times when, Tad and I are hikers, a lot of the people that follow this podcast are hikers. So we see a lot of on our journeys up to the high peaks and stuff, we see the blue striped butterfly, which is the swallowtails, I believe.
A blue stripe could be, a red dotted purple butterfly, a spice bush swallowtail, a black swallowtail. Some of them look very similar,
Okay.
and they're all magnificent. And we have over 17,000 different kinds of butterflies. Do you know how many different kinds of moths we have? Over 150,000 species of moths, and we don't really know all of them yet. And they're not all just brown and plain and eat our clothes. No, there are many beautiful moths that pollinate night flowers, night blooming jasmine, or bats that pollinate night blooming flowers.
And we, like those, I think it's the swallowtail and stuff. We see them more on the high peaks and stuff. I'm pretty sure, Tad, where the azaleas grow, you see them a lot up on, one of the most prominent spots that I usually see them is on the eastern side of Indian Head Mountain on Sherman's Outlook, Tad, where I think there's azaleas. I think there's azaleas there.
And what other flowers are there?
Laurel aren't there yet. I don't think those are over more on the southern parts. But am I correct, Tad, with the azaleas over on? Is that
usually? Well, by the time I get over there, I'm so out of breath and tired, I really don't notice what's going on. So I'm not able to confirm or contradict that statement.
Azaleas, I had a black bear who was fascinated by my azaleas, who on its hind legs, looking out my window, I said, what? It looked like a human in a bear costume, just smelling the azaleas. So azaleas appreciated not only by pollinators and hummingbirds, but by bears as well.
Is that like, Tad, is that what I see? Like, we're talking about the higher peaks. Is it azaleas at this time of year that are up more of the higher peaks?
Mountain laurel.
Are they blooming yet, though?
The azaleas came and went. It was a very short season for azaleas this year. They're over. What's blooming now are mountain laurel, which are beautiful and filling the mountains. It's also a short-lived flower that blooms for about a week or so, but it's fabulous.
And we're familiar with azaleas. Tad loves the azalea, or not the azaleas, the mountain laurel. We love the mountain laurel.
Yeah, they're my friend, especially when they whack me in the face.
Oh God, when we have to,
makes me feel like a real hiker.
So Tad loves to bushwhack. We both love to bushwhack, so we bushwhack through these things. Not in blooming season, I would say. Yeah, he's got an artist scar right there. He's showing.
Yeah, got a battle scar from the weekend.
From being upside in the head by
have you ever been hit by one of those, Maraleen? Have you ever bushwhacked through one of those?
I've bushwhacked hither and yon, but not up to the high peaks of the Catskills. I've bushwhacked a lot in Mexico, searching for 2 months to find where the butterflies overwintered.
Yeah. So once again, I looked at my recent pictures of like Indian Head Mountain. It's the azaleas that are up a little bit higher on the mountains that attract those butterflies. So like one of the times I remember going down to Westkill Falls down over in the Spruceton area and seeing the blue striped butterflies sitting out in the sun and just bathing in the sun. It's beautiful to see, and it's beautiful, like one of those birds that you see just flying and then catching on one of the azaleas or mountain laurel and stuff. To see these pollinators, it's just one of those magnificent times that you appreciate life, and you're like, man, I wish I could see these, like you said, the canopy being covered with monarch butterflies. It's almost like a solar freaking eclipse happens. And you're just like, wow, what a time. Tad, I think our new spot is going down into Mexico. We're gonna have to climb some 12,000-foot mountains.
Yeah, well, I'm sitting here and you're talking about that, and I just am trying to put myself in the place and time when Maraleen, and you said it was 1977 that you first were upon where the monarchs overwinter, and there was millions of them. That's kind of a heavy experience. Hard to duplicate, I imagine, in today's day and age when we seem to know and have already learned or discovered, most things, but to be there at that time must have been amazing.
It's a totally different, it's totally different now because life has changed, as we well know, but the change for the monarchs has been profound. In 77, I was there. I had to leave. I discovered them. I returned in 78 and 79 and talked my way through the political patriarch to grant me permission to camp among the butterflies, which I'm the only person ever to live and camp among the butterflies for a few weeks at a time. And slowly it was discovered. Long stories, Dr. Urquhart, for whom I worked, National Geographic, Lincoln Brower, another monarch scientist with whom I worked, let the cat out of the bag and let people know where it was before things were in place. I tried to negotiate to get the mountain people to be the official guides. And so many people have gotten on board over the years to help the monarchs. I believe that the monarchs are inspiring millions of us to save them. And in so doing, the monarchs are guiding us to save ourselves. And all right. And so visitors started appearing in the early 80s, but nothing was in place, and dust and roads were being incursioned into the forest, logging roads. There's a problem with deforestation in Mexico. People are part of the equation. Many people still cook over a fire and build their houses and their furniture out of wood, and it's a way to provide for the family. So about 100,000 people live in the area. You multiply a few trees by each person each year. That's a lot of trees. However, mafia is mafia in whatever culture or country on the planet.
Watch out, Maraleen. You might not. This might reach the wrong person. Don't be saying too much.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding. And this podcast isn't that big.
Well, when I would encounter called the talamante from the cartels, the guys who would cut the trees up in the butterflies, because why I'm saying that is that the cartels, the mafia, whatever name you want to give them, they only care, like some politicians, about money, greed, and power. Sound familiar?
It sounds like Stash and I.
What? Not at all. It does sound familiar, though. I'm not going to say any names, but it does sound familiar.
It does. I'm not saying any names, but it sounds familiar, right? And with no regard for life, no respect for life,
No respect for science.
No respect for science. No respect for Mother Nature that gives us everything. Do you know, humans, we did not invent all the things that made us humans rich. Did we invent oil? Did we invent diamonds or rubies or silver or gold? No, these were gifts, just like dandelions are gifts. Don't destroy the hand that feeds you. And we're doing a pretty good job of that.
Maraleen, speaking of that, you are like are introducing stuff to local towns and organizations and stuff. So you have the Welcoming Pollinators Initiative from Olive to Andes. So you want to chat about that? That's very local. That's Catskills, Olive to Andes. That's a fantastic way to kind of take away what we don't have happening right now.
Right. Think globally, act locally. As I said, in 2014, in 2015, I came back and I saw the absolute devastation that was happening to the Monarchs. I sprang into action on a number of levels. One, I got the New York City DEP to stop in 2016 through petitions, letters, working with my Olive Town board. Got them calls. Oh my God. I called everybody. Got them to stop spraying glyphosate around all our reservoirs and around 99 miles of road that they control. They're using a toxic thing because we can't,
What is that again? Can you explain that?
All right. Glyphosate is the major ingredient in Roundup.
Okay.
And it kills milkweed and it leaches into the water, into the soil, even though the chemical companies, Monsanto, Bayer, say, oh, no, it's perfectly safe. Just read the label, you use it. Anyhow, they've been spraying this poison around our reservoirs for 30 years. And in 2016, they stopped doing it. And I initiated that event.
Kudos to you.
Yeah, right.
And then in 2019, I had been advocating for at least 10 years to get the Catskill Scenic Byway to protect pollinators. And in 2019, they did so, headed by Carol O'Byrne. 52 miles of Route 28 now protects pollinators, and there are model pollinator gardens in many of the hamlets along the byway.
Wow. Awesome.
So I speak at schools, I speak at libraries, universities, at Harvard, at Yale. I've spoken all over the country, but I've spoken a lot locally and continue to do so, Catskill Visitor Center. I also, and this was in 2021, at the very beginning of Route 28, just past the Kingston Circle, the road that leads to the Catskill Mountains, I saw a grassy knoll abutting Route 28 in front of Kenco Outfitters, just a quarter of a mile past the circle. And Butterfly Spirit told me, that needs a butterfly pollinator garden. And for a few, I finally put one in with the help of many people from the community. I built, each wing is 12 feet in diameter and made of bluestone that I collected from broken down walls here on the mountain. And then Bill Kennedy helped and took pity on me and my crew, a few people, and bought a couple of truckloads of bluestone, and the body is a kayak. And then people from the community and all the local nurseries chipped in, and it's my subliminal advertising. It's, you come into the mountains and there it is, this big, beautiful garden. Tony Wiedenbecker, an artist, made this beautiful sign, Pollinator Garden. And It's to welcome creatures with wings and without wings to our area, and just hopefully inspire people. I think it's inspiring and educating people, because you two know what it feels like when you're out there hiking in the mountains and a butterfly lands near you. How does it make you feel? It does something to you, yes.
Yeah, makes me feel like running fast.
What? Well, that's a bee. That's a bee or a wasp.
All right. I was my head in the wrong place.
Talking about a wasp or something like that.
Maraleen, let's talk about the pollinator garden. I've driven by, I've seen it. Now I know who's behind the pollinator garden. How many butterflies does that support? How many pollinators does that garden support?
Hundreds of birds, bees, butterflies, moths, hundreds. It is, do you know, an old family recipe for a great garden is relatively simple. Full sun. It's amazing. Where I live on the side of a mountain. I don't have full sun here. I can plant the same flower here and plant it there at the garden it can't go in full sun. That flower will be taller than I am, and this one will be lovely and modest. So full sun, and we put in, thanks to Bill Kennedy and tree huggers, John Lee, put in an irrigation system. So it uses water wisely by just watering the roots. So adequate water, full sun. I hand filter my own compost and put that in, and a little tender loving care, and voila. And speaking of how we can all help mitigate climate change by composting. Composting it's transformation as well. It's absolutely, you take a watermelon rind, you put it with coffee grinds in the soil and make a pile, and all of a sudden in a year you have black gold, rich soil. And instead of putting all that food waste in a landfill, where it creates methane, where you're creating good soil. Science has shown that if you put even a quarter of an inch of compost, let's say on an acre of land, it will absorb like 10,000 tons of carbon. So it absorbs carbon, it stops methane from forming in the landfills, and it enriches your gardens and your plants and makes them extraordinarily happy. Oh. Simple. We can do that.
So before we move on, let's talk about milkweed, why it's so important to monarchs. And in addition to having a pollinator garden, can I have a milkweed garden?
Well, milkweed, yes, you should definitely have milkweed. However, when a butterfly is laying her eggs on the milkweed, she needs to be nourished. So plant flowers with your milkweed so she can sup on some nectar and have the energy to lay her eggs on the milkweed.
So the females travel from Mexico up to north to us, and then the males travel from the north down to south?
Yes.
Okay.
Both males and females do the one butterfly migration down to Mexico, and the females do a third of the migration north. The males.
Okay, sorry. Yeah, so go ahead and Tad about, once again, milkweed, like spontaneous here and there, but then pollinators a lot of the places, correct?
Yes. And not only so. The milkweed is the host plant for monarchs, but also if you've ever been in a field of milkweed, the aroma of the flowers is divine. It smells like cinnamon and vanilla and sweetness.
You have some passion about this, don't you?
Well, I have a sense memory I remember in the early days filling my car with milkweed to bring home to my first caterpillars. And the smell, the aroma was so fabulous. And here on my land, when it's in bloom, so it attracts all kinds of different bees and butterflies to nectar on this sweet smelling flower. The hummingbirds also love the flower. So yes, it's the host plant for the monarch, but it sustains many other species with its delicious nectar.
So, Maraleen, I'm just led into asking you, with your sensory memory, what about cannabis? What are your thoughts on cannabis?
Good question.
It's a wonderful plant.
Yeah. All right. So.
It's a wonderful plant. I don't know who fertilizes cannabis.
No.
So sure you don't. Sure you don't.
Yeah. Would you put cannabis in your pollinator garden or not? That's what we really want to know.
Well, I have not a clue if you should do that or not. Follow your heart.
Yeah. Or is that your way of taking the Fifth Amendment when you say I don't have a clue? It's legal now.
Correct.
So Maraleen, let's assume I live in an apartment. I have a little balcony. I don't have much room to grow things.
Right. Good question.
What can I put out on my balcony so I can?
Great question, Tag. When I lived in New York City,
fantastic,
and I had window boxes, or I climbed out a window and had just a little ledge, or I had a teeny backyard. In my window boxes, you can plant marigolds and zinnias, which are great, easy flowers to grow and are fabulous nectar sources for all kinds of butterflies. And in my little Brooklyn brownstone, when I had a little ledge 6 feet wide and 25 feet in length, I had milkweed out there. And tough little New York City butterflies need all the help that they can get. And a butterfly came and laid her egg, and a monarch emerged right there on my funky ledge. It was thrilling. It was thrilling. So you don't need, do you know Winston Churchill loved butterflies? And that after World War II, and he went to his estate in Sussex, in Essex, in England. He raised 1,500 butterflies every summer. It became his passion.
Wow.
But we don't all have big estates like Winston Churchill, but we do have window boxes. And every little garden, every little place of sustenance helps in the corridor of life, so that butterflies can fly from here to there and bees can find nourishment. There are many people who raise bees in city areas as well. So absolutely, if you have only a balcony or a window box. In one place I lived in Brooklyn, 2 stories front and back, I had 25 window boxes filled with flowers. And you invite the butterflies and bees for lunch, and maybe they'll even stay for dinner.
So like basically when you're looking down in Brooklyn, there was normal, and then you with greenery, bright yellow stuff, orange stuff that attracted all these things. And people were just like, God damn, these bees are out of control. This lady is killing us. But then they didn't know that they were actually, keeping us going. The pollinators were keeping us lice.
Well, actually, people would walk by my little house and thank me. And we need to plant trees. We need to plant gardens, not only for our planet, but for our own souls.
They're beautiful. Why you wake up in the morning, you look out and you're just like, damn, look at that black-eyed Susan, or, look at that milkweed, or look at, I'm trying to think of what else, daylilies that I have. Yeah. Or sunflower.
Right. Any of it lightens our heart. I've written a book called The Spirit of Butterflies, Myth, Magic, and Art. And butterflies have inspired our ancestors that I'm sure that I could find going back 6,500 BC, but I'm sure even before that, because our ancestors had to observe nature closely for survival. And when they would observe the transformation of caterpillar, chrysalis, butterfly, they were just as blown away as we are today. And there are many sacred stories and spiritual stories of the inspiration that butterflies have provided to so many around the world. I just, the first a pope in the 5th century, Pope Gelasius I, actually, declared that Christ was a caterpillar because he was humble, and that his time in the cave, in the tomb, was his time like in the chrysalis, and his rebirth and resurrection was he became a butterfly. And in Mexico, Quetzalcoatl, who lived around the same time as Christ, but in the Mexico Mesoamerican region, had saying many of similar teachings of forgiveness, of love, of healing, and it is said that Quetzalcoatl is reborn every morning as the morning star, as a butterfly. The butterflies play a powerful role in the mythology of Mexico, as they do in many parts of the planet.
I was going to say, yeah. And I mean, all the pollinators do as well,
Yes.
As once again, they pass area to area, they transport all this stuff to give life everywhere else. And, so we're talking about, once again, buy local, plant with local stuff, plant your local pollinators. Doesn't, I wouldn't say it doesn't matter what, but plant for pollination, and then all natural. What else is your one more?
Native plants attract native species. Native species plants attract native species fauna, right? If you plant an exotic tree here, who knows what it is? It's not sustaining anyone. We have to ask before you buy a plant in any of your local nurseries.
Lowe's and Home Depot will not know shit about that.
No. No, and all I can is to each one teach one until the day that heart and soul and science and overrides greed and greed and greed. Maybe someday we will not poison everything, poison our food. If when I was petitioning the NYC DEP and I was speaking to some recalcitrant bureaucrat, and I just said, "Excuse me, can I ask one question? Do you have children?" "Yeah." I said, "Do you know if you test your children for pesticides and poisons in their system, you'll find that your children's blood is filled with all kinds of horrible things. Unfortunately, all of us, microplastic, pesticides, herbicides, toxic household products, just care, just open your mind and open your heart. And let butterflies be your guide. You can't go wrong. You can only make life better for all of us, for all living creatures on this planet. We all share the same beautiful planet. And it's a great gift and to be on this planet with all that she offers us.
Yeah, that's for sure true.
And
Definitely. So, Marlene, have you ever heard of a man named Dr. Kudish, Michael Kudish?
no, I haven't.
You seriously need to hook up with him, and you guys need to do some stuff. He does flora, fauna, trees, stuff like that in the Catskills.
Send his name and contact information to me via email or any other way, or give it to me right now.
Yes, he is the most knowledgeable man in the Catskills about flora, fauna, about trees, everything, and he just has the most. I'd have to say he is right up there with you with knowledge and passion about these certain topics. That I'm just like I'm seriously like wow, these two, if they give a speech, everybody will change their mind about what they're thinking and stuff, about how they think, about what they're planting, what they're doing, the impact they have on the economy, or the economy, Jesus, ecology, stuff like that. So I will send you that information.
That would be wonderful. I'd appreciate that, because I feel that. Thank you for having me on this program and allowing me to share a taste of some of the many stories that live within me.
No problem. Absolutely. You know, I heard I saw your site, you know, you sent me the email and I was just like, wow, this is deep. This needs to be talked about. This needs to be preached about. We need to educate. That's what this podcast was made for me to educate the people of the Catskills, not just about hiking in the Catskills, but about everything. And this goes super deep. Like I love it. But I have go ahead.
You know, if you send me a link to this podcast, I'd like to put it on my Instagram account, on my Facebook account. Hey, you know, for an old lady, I'm trying not to be a dinosaur with social media.
So one last question.
Absolutely.
We have a question called post-hike brews and bites. When you're out doing something, where is your local brewery, local organization that you like to go out and get something to eat after you're doing one of your presentations, or, you know, you're researching of butterflies, of pollinators and stuff?
Yeah. Interesting question.
Right?
I have a few fabulous celebratory places that are a bit extravagant that I truly love. For the best Catskill Rose, right on 212, Peter and Rose. He's fabulous cooks, fabulous for a treat of a meal to celebrate. When I've had, you know, I used to, before the pandemic, have butterfly garden tours at my personal gardens, but I'm not doing that now. I'm just talking to you. And if you, I don't think for after a hike, but for a fabulous celebratory moment, if you really like French food, in Kingston, La Canard Enchaînée is like going to Paris. It's an extravagant excursion, but my dear, it's fabulous.
I'll have Tad look that up.
I am a great cook.
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
stop at Maralene's place. I'll get the address from her later on. So.
And I love sharing food and cooking for people, and it's also another creative endeavor in my life, because it's just taking different ingredients and, you know, coming together.
Indeed. So, Maraleen, I appreciate you joining the show. I appreciate you talking about your passion, educating people on this topic of monarch butterflies, pollinators, stuff like that. It's really essential to what's going on today, what's going on with our ecology and such. So I appreciate you coming on the show, spending your time, and it's been a fantastic time. I've learned so much. I can't wait to take my front yard and just turn it into a pollinator garden.
Hey, fabulous. Hey, every garden is important. So thank you to every person who plants a flower and plants a tree and takes care of the little piece of earth upon which you stand. If we all did that, we can. I think that real change has to bubble up from each of us. It's not coming from the top. It's not coming from the top down. The respect for all life, respect and dignity for all people, for all life.
Indeed. So
Absolutely.
So once again, thank you to the monthly supporters and monthly sponsors. Really appreciate you guys. Once again, you are keeping this podcast alive. Thank you to everyone who is still listening to the show. Appreciate it. 175 episodes in, we're talking to Maraleen about monarch butterflies, pollinators, such to help us keep Mother Nature alive. So Maraleen, have a great night. Thank you once again for joining us. Hope to see you in the future.
Thank you. Hope so too. See you on the trail.
Yeah, definitely.
Definitely. Have a good night.
I'll be the one chasing the butterflies.
And just one last thing.
Yeah.
If a butterfly lands on you, not only is it a blessing, but you can whisper a wish to it. Since it doesn't speak, it'll carry your wish to the Great Spirit.
Hey everyone, I just want to thank you for listening to the show. If you enjoyed the show, subscribe and throw down a smooth review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any podcast platform that you use. You can also check daily updates of the podcast, hikes, hiking news, and local news on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and the official website of the show. Remember this. You gotta just keep on living in the Catskills, man. Livin.
Wicked.